I want to bring in Democratic Senator Tammy Baldwin from the state of Wisconsin. She serves on the Senate Health Committee, a key committee that had to advance the nomination of Secretary Kennedy before he was confirmed as secretary. Thank you so much for taking the time with us. Senator, we've been listening in, and we've now heard at least two Republican senators talking about their deep concerns with what's happening right now with HHS Secretary Kennedy at the helm of that agency, from everything that's happened at the CDC, the recent firings, to the questions that he has posed around vaccines, despite the evidence that show vaccines are safe and effective. We heard Senator Cassidy say we are effectively preventing people from getting vaccines. Senator Barrasso saying I've grown deeply concerned and we can't allow public health to be undermined. These are people who confirmed Secretary Kennedy knowing his vaccine skepticism from the beginning. What do you make of what we're hearing?
Yeah, these are two physician members of the United States Senate raising these questions. They were given assurances and promises and commitments from RFK Jr. Before they voted to confirm him. And I think they are seeing that those assurances, those promises have been broken. I've had that experience when he has been under cross-examination before the Health Committee, where he is either totally ignorant of what's happening in his own department or lying. And I don't know which is worse. But the issue that is so important right here is that his incompetence has real-life impact on Americans' health. And we have seen whether it's the ravaging of research by defunding research projects, or the mass firings in the CDC and other agencies within Health and Human Services. His actions have real repercussions on Americans' health, and he has no business leading our preeminent health agency. He should resign.
This morning, you just said it right now again, reiterated that you believe Secretary Kennedy should resign. Do you expect any Republican colleagues to join you in that call?
You know, I'm hearing some of my Republican colleagues in their questioning of Secretary Kennedy basically acknowledging that he has broken his commitment to them that led to their vote to confirm him. And I think they're probably also hearing from their own constituents, as I am. You know, when he did this mass firing in the Centers for Disease Control, he ended up firing everybody in the childhood lead poisoning division. When Milwaukee Public Schools had a lead crisis and 1,800 school children were displaced, when they called the CDC for help, they were turned down. There was no one there to answer the phone because he discharged them. And then he lied about it to me. In another hearing that I held earlier this year, we had a 10-year-old, Dewey, plead with senators to restore funding for ALS research so that his father can live out his dream of seeing his son graduate from high school. These decisions and this incompetence has real-life consequences.
And we have seen an outpouring of angst and outrage and concern expressed by doctors and other professionals throughout the country, frankly, worried about Secretary Kennedy and the moves that he's making.
Senator White.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I've made it clear I think that Secretary Kennedy is dead set on making it harder for children to get vaccines and that kids are going to die because of it. And Mr. Chairman, I'd like to put in the record today an op-ed written by Susan Monarez, who was fired by Mr. Kennedy.
Without objection.
So what we know, and Dr. Monarez, was approved by Republicans. She wrote an op-ed today in the Wall Street Journal, which I've just put in the record, and I quote her. She said, "I was told to pre-approve the recommendations of a vaccine advisory panel newly filled with people who have publicly expressed anti-vaccine rhetoric." So this is not some liberal philosopher or something. This is the CDC director who tells the Wall Street Journal, which is not exactly interested in progressive, theories and the like, that she was told to pre-approve the recommendations of a vaccine advisory panel filled with people who've publicly expressed anti-vaccine rhetoric. So my first question, Mr. Secretary, is did you, in fact, do what Director Monarez said you did, which is tell her to just go along with vaccine recommendations, even if she didn't think such recommendations aligned with scientific evidence? That is
no, I did not.
That's a yes or no. So you have an opportunity to call her a liar if you say that you didn't do it, but I'd like to see you respond to this.
No, I did not say that to her. And I never had a private meeting with her. So there are witnesses to every meeting that we have, and all of those witnesses will say, I never said that.
So she's lying today to the American people in the Wall Street Journal?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let's talk now about what's coming up, because I've made it clear what I've thought about the 203 days with my colleague, Senator Also Brooks. In 2 weeks, CDC's Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices will meet to make decisions about critical vaccines that protect us against hepatitis B, measles, and more. The committee's got a profound impact on vaccine access, but these aren't ordinary meetings. You've stacked the deck to ensure the panel bends to your views. In June, you fired all 17 committee members who are respected scientists and doctors. You replaced them with non-experts, vaccine skeptics, and conspiracy theorists. As a result, this critical advisory panel has lost scientific credibility. After years, colleagues, we spend so much time not looking at this as Democrats and Republicans, but as good science and scientific credibility. And now the American Academy of Pediatrics has warned that the committee is being politicized at the expense of children's health. American Academy of Pediatrics, you think they're lying too?
I think the American Academy of Pediatrics is gravely conflicted. They get their biggest contributors are the 4 largest vaccine makers. They run a journal, Pediatrics, which they make a lot of money on, that is completely dependent on pharmaceutical companies. So I wouldn't put a big stake in what they say that benefits pharmaceutical interests. Senator, I didn't politicize ACIP. I depoliticized it. The Congress has been investigating ACIP.
All over the country, Mr. Secretary, scientists and doctors are saying otherwise. They're all wrong, too. They're all lying, according to you.
The scientists and doctors are supporting me all over the country. There is division on opinion.
I don't get letters from thousands of people who are not political saying that this set of changes is going to damage American healthcare, and particularly these healthcare agencies, for decades to come. I don't get any letters from people saying, hey, this is going to make a big difference forever.
Maybe you're listening to a selective group of people.
Well, you get me.
Yeah, and I will.
Fine.
I will tell you what, Senator. I will put my mailbag against your mailbag any day of the week.
I got 30 seconds. Dangerous respiratory viruses like RSV are on the agenda for the next advisory meeting. Countless parents have been awakened in the dead of night by a wheezing kid gasping for air, forced to rush their little one to the ER. There's no worse heart-wrenching fear. The RSV vaccine offers these kids protection against the worst effects of the virus.
And joining us now for a quick reaction is former CDC Chief Medical Officer Dr. Deborah Howry. She resigned after the White House ousted the CDC director while citing growing political interference in the agency's work. Dr. Howry, thank you. You've been watching along with me here. What are your top takeaways?
So many takeaways. I agree with Senator Cassidy around the life-saving work that was done under the Trump administration for the COVID vaccine. And it's really disappointing that the secretary doesn't understand that supporting lawyers against vaccines is a conflict of interest as he's looking at putting people like that on the vaccine committee, the ACIP. I also thought that, Bennett had some really good points around transparency and data. We've been trying to do that at CDC and want to post data in advance of the ACIP meeting. And in fact, the secretary had taken down data around thimerosal at the last ACIP meeting. And then when he was talking about chronic disease, it struck me that, the majority of the chronic disease center is being wiped out in the president's budget, and what he is moving to AHA would focus on services and not much on prevention. And we have shown that for every dollar spent on tobacco prevention, we save $55 with our programs. So there is significant investment that's being done, and this is being done on local and states as well. Our funding, 80% goes out the door. And I guess the last thing I just wanted to say is I appreciate he acknowledged the sacrifice Officer Rose did for CDC staff and for our community, but I wish he had also acknowledged the trauma that CDC staff faced while covering their children in the daycare parking lot and being shot at in buildings. That was a violent attack on CDC, and I would think the Secretary should acknowledge that trauma to our staff as well.
Well, and that attack is believed to be stemmed from misinformation related to COVID vaccines. And he got lots of questions in just that short amount of time, particularly from Senator Bennett and Senator Warner there about the COVID vaccine. He could not answer the question about how many Americans died from COVID or how many Americans may have been saved because of the vaccine. What did you make of that?
You know, I had offered to brief the Secretary, as had Dr. Jernigan and Dr. Daskalakis, on things like COVID, on H5N1, on flu, on measles. But the Secretary never had a briefing from the senior leaders at CDC on any of these topics. If he had, he may know the answers to those questions.
I think this could be the end of RFK. Now, we don't know, of course, for sure. That's why you use question marks, right? That's why I'm asking the question. But it wouldn't be the first time that Donald turfs somebody, not even because they disagree with them. Although I do wonder how committed Trump is to this extreme RFK policy, given that there have been moments in Trump's tenure as president where he's talked positively about vaccination, right? Like remember that moment at one of his rallies? He came out and he said, you know, I think you guys should get it, to members of his audience. And then they booed him, right? But he was correct, and he's like, look, how often do I give Trump credit? But he was right. They probably should get it, right? He was especially saying, especially if you're older and whatnot, right? You should definitely get it. It'll protect you. I got it. And they got so mad at him for the 1% of the time, less than one, let's be clear, the 0.1% of the time he was speaking the truth, right? And he kind of stopped doing it, but you got to think, like, in his mind, that's still in there. But more than that, put that aside, I don't think Trump is acting on morals. Trump has turfed people for doing what he wants them to do. They're not doing the right thing, but they are doing the right thing in the mind of Trump. They've been loyal to him. They've been effective for him. They've gone in and shaken things up in the way Trump wants things shaken up. They've disrupted, they've triggered the libs, so to speak, right? And so you'd think Trump would be like, this is my guy, this is my gal. They're getting a lot of media pressure, but they're doing my bidding. So I have like a responsibility to kind of stand with them, because these are not scandals based on them screwing up. They're scandals based on them doing what I hired them to do, which was to be a disruptor. And then, lo and behold, Trump has turfed these people before. Look at all Michael Cohen did. Now, Michael Cohen will say, I regret doing it for Trump. Let's be clear. He's redeemed himself, at least in some big part. But, like, Michael Cohen was loyal to Trump. Where did it get him? It got him an orange jumpsuit, right? Like, let's be clear, right? And so, Trump has no qualms firing loyal people doing what they were hired to do for him. And then all RFK Jr. will be was that guy who used to get him coffee.